Thank you for your replies to the poll. So, just to give you a little bit of introduction about myself, I am product management leader. I mostly talk and engage on topics around product management, leadership, and management. I currently manage an international team of product managers in e-commerce spread across the world. I've been working internationally in different aspects and different sectors, including energy, banking and finance, insurance, working on different product areas like e-commerce, SaaS, web, mobile, ERP focused, and all of that. I currently also mentor as an international mentor. I facilitate workshops on demand, and I also currently lecture as a guest in some engineering and business schools in France. So let's get into it. First of all, first thing I would like us to do is to kind of differentiate between distributed and remote teams, because sometimes, we kind of try to get that confused. So distributed teams, they could be teams that exist in multiple geographical locations. So it means that these teams are not in the same geographical locations. They could be in different cities, they could be in different countries, they could be in different continents. So, but when it comes to remote teams, a distributed team can also be a remote team, because a remote team can work from the same geographical location in the same place, but they're working remotely. Like you have your team members, let's say, for example, in New York, but they're all working remotely from their homes. Or you could have remote teams working from different geographical locations. A distributed team can work remotely or from an office location. So for example, you have your company, you have some teams that are in New York, you have some teams that are maybe in Paris, you have some teams in London, you have some teams in Shanghai. Those are, that would be classified as a distributed team. Most of the time, a remote team, when we talk about remote teams, when in our minds, we're talking about people who are working individually and not necessarily from an office location. A distributed team can be co-located with other teams. So you could have, an office building, you could have many teams, like I was saying, in New York, and you could have another team that will be in the same office building in maybe London, for example. And in the sense of remote teams, most of the time they are connecting virtually to all other teams. So I hope this is clear when we're talking about distributed teams here. This presentation is really focusing on distributed teams and not necessarily on remote teams, because they could be different in terms of how they work. So we're going to be looking at three key things today: how to define the team structure, how to work with a team, and how to manage the team effectively. So defining the team structure. First thing, and usually what I try to tell people, because I have done a similar presentation within a company before, and what I told them, and what I really tell people is that the team is in the cloud. You have to think about the fact that the team is not location based, as in the cloud. That's very difficult to do, because you have your team, you're probably working from a specific location. You want to feel like you are part of that team in that location. But think about it, that your team is not that location, it's not location based, it's actually in the cloud. So I gave here an example of, let's say you have a design, engineering, product team. The best way to structure is to have cross-functional teams that are co-located, maybe in specific countries or specific cities, but you need to set up international, intercontinental, or intercity, as depending on what your case is, cross-functional teams, and members of the different teams can be in different locations. So let's say, for example, you have a design team. Instead of having your entire design team located in one city, in one place, have the design team actually have members in different places, in different cities. However, you try to make sure that you have one a cross-functional team in one specific location. So that's the best way. In that way, the team will know that that team is not based on their location, but actually the team is based on the skills that each individual team members will have. Second thing is choose the right process. I say process is everything, because really what you're trying to achieve is to make sure that you have a simple process for you all to work together. Try to make sure you adapt that process to the complexity, because the complexity is the complexity that comes with working with distributed teams means that you might have a lot of communication issues, you might have a lot of alignment issues. So make sure that the process that you're choosing will address that complexity, but do not try to complexify the process. Keep it simple. Make sure that you're defining and sharing the same principles and the same values, regardless of whichever location your team is based in. And also make sure that your process, whatever process you're going to be using, favors continuous improvement and feedback loops. I saw that most of you said you're using Scrum, you're using Kanban. Those are already processes and frameworks that allow you to continuously improve and continuously provide feedback. Then working with this distributed team, what are the things that you need to understand? Speak their language. That's the first thing I would say. Speak their language. It's good to be culturally correct. Okay, it's good to be culturally correct. I remember when I used to work with teams in Romania, Portugal, Spain. I would, start up the morning conversation with them saying, hey, hello, but in their language, I would say, hey, hola, or bună dimineața, or something like that, And actually, I remember at first they thought she probably speaks Romanian, but no, I actually do not speak Romanian. I'm just trying to make sure that I get to understand your language. So speaking the language literally, trying to, have basic conversation you don't need to have a full-fledged native speaker conversation, but, try to get to know them a bit more culturally. It will help you to actually know more about who they are and actually help you to communicate a bit more with the different people that you're working with. Learn more also about their cultures. Have specific team discovery sessions. It could be you're having virtual lunches, virtual get to know each other meetings, virtual games. Take some time to get to know people, because remember, the fact that you are not in the same office building means that you cannot see yourself and understand people's body language and all of that. But if you get to know their environment, it will actually be easier for you to interact with them. Use the right tools. Picking the right tools is very important, because that will help you to determine your level of productivity. Remember, the tool itself is not the process, because I know a lot of people will start using Jira or start using, Trello, some other tool, and then they will really focus on getting to know the tool, but forget about the process itself and the communication with the team. So choose the right tool, but keep it simple. And also understand that most of your tools are for two things: communication and actually alignment. So communication, make sure you have tools for asynchronous and synchronous communication. Now, a lot of people today use Slack, they use, Google Chats. Some people use Google Drive, for maintaining their documents today. Some people use Teams, people use Zoom. So make sure you have different tools or specific tools. You might have one tool that does everything, but make sure you have specific tools for the two types of communication. We'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. And also, you need specific tools for roadmap. Anthony just talked about, sharing your roadmap. You need specific tools for sharing your roadmap so that it's clear for everyone, regardless of wherever they are connecting from. For your delivery, you need to make sure that you're using specific tools and the same tools, discovery and also for impact monitoring. You need to make sure that you're all sharing the same tools so that it's easy for you to communicate. It's easy for you to share the same level of information across the entire team. Then time zones. This is something that kills people a lot. Is you need to understand where the time zone in which your team is actually working on. But it's not really about knowing, okay, this is GMT +1, +2 or whatnot. It's really making sure that you work that time zone into your plans. Because when you're working, imagine you're working with a team and one team is in New York and the other one is in, let's say, Barcelona. You're going to have at least maybe 6 hours time difference. At what time are you going to be able to communicate together? So you want to make sure that if you're working with other teams, for example, in Europe, you're communicating with them in the morning, and then in the afternoon, you're planning your work time with the US team, let's say, or your New York team, so that you can have maximum time with them. Try to make sure that you are not planning the morning meetings, the meetings with your European people in the afternoon, so that you're not eating into the time that you have with those people. So it's important to really think about that when you're planning your time, and also try to organize time zone friendly team meetings as much as possible. Not trying to plan meetings in the midnight for when it's midnight for somebody, when you need them to be in that meeting. And one thing that really helps us, I would say, is the wartime buddy. You can use this one. You can also use anyone. Use your time zone converter, so that can help you to give you an idea of what the different cities, or the times different cities will be in when you want to plan your sessions, or that they're in right now, in order for you to facilitate your communication. Communicate effectively. I put this out as a separate thing because it's important. One of the things that actually suffer when we are working in distributed teams is the fact that we might not be able to communicate appropriately. I've had teams who say that, yeah, but we cannot talk to people in the US because it's very difficult to get to them. It's very difficult. You have to be deliberate about your communication. There are different types of communication channels. You have to know exactly what you need to use them for, so that not only are you able to communicate effectively with the people, but also you're able to be productive in your communication. We all know about team meetings that will go on forever. The meetings that probably could have been an email, or could have been a chat, or maybe emails that could actually have been meetings, because people are just going back and forth and not understanding one another. So I've put up maybe just 4 channels here. They can be combined for effectiveness. You can maybe have another channel. I'm not sure if there's another one so far, but if you have anyone, please let me know. But know how to use email effectively. Use it for more broadcast communication. Hey, I would like you to inform you that this is happening. Or and the thing about emails is that it's something that can be reused and be forwarded. So anything you want people to be able to reuse, you want people to be able to forward or transfer to other team members, it's always better to put that in an email. Just chat when you want to have a quick one-to-one discussion. You want to talk to a team member, send them a message, say, hey, I would like to talk to you about this. Would you have some time? Or just ask them a quick question and they'll be able to reply to you. The good thing is it can be real time. A downside to that is when you have to communicate with people that are, in different time zones, and that's totally fine because you can leave in messages for them. So imagine you're working from London and you started working in the morning. You can leave a message for somebody that's going to be starting in New York, for example, in the afternoon, your afternoon. Leave a message for them. That's what they will see the first time they come in to work in their own morning. And so it helps actually to make sure that the communication flows. And use conference calls for brainstorming, problem solving, workshops, things that will require people to contribute in real time together to solve a particular problem. And of course, team meetings, and use in-person meetings also. In-person meetings, it's important. We'll talk about that a bit for team bonding, also for rapid problem solving, and also to provide direction. Sometimes it's important to have that physical connection with people. Okay, so what about managing a distributed team? This is the first thing I would say you have to think about. Understand local laws, and actually this also applies to you if you're also just working as a member of a team. You have to understand that in different countries, in different cities, they would have different legislation about when they're supposed to work, the holiday allocations, and all of that in the different disconnection laws. For example, in Europe, in the Nordics, they would start from 7 to 3 p.m. Okay. In maybe in Central Europe, it would probably be from 9 to 5 p.m. In other countries, maybe in Asia or in other continents, maybe in Asia or maybe countries like US, they might have different laws. So understand the laws that you have available so that you will be able to plan the work hours accordingly between the different teams. Also understand holiday allocations and make sure that people explain and share the holidays. For example, I know that in the US, when it comes to Thanksgiving, they just assume that everybody knows that it's Thanksgiving and everybody's off. Unfortunately, Thanksgiving in the US is not Thanksgiving in Europe, for example, or it's not Thanksgiving in Asia. So they might not know, and they just discover that nobody is available on the team for Thanksgiving. Why? Nobody knows. So it's important for everyone to be aware, everyone on the team, and especially you as a manager to be aware of when the team is going to be available, not available because they just have public holidays. Same thing. Understand the paid time off process, the sick leave policy. Some of these things are very different depending on the countries. You have to understand that so that you're able to plan the work period and the work time accordingly. And we also have disconnection laws. I know, for example, during the pandemic, a lot of people had issues disconnecting from work because office is home, it's exactly the same place. But you will discover that there are some countries that have no connection and that have disconnection laws. For example, I know sometimes they'll work with Germany and they're like, yeah, Friday afternoons we're not here because we're not allowed to work in some places on Friday afternoons. That's just how it is. You would not force them to work on Friday afternoons because they cannot legally. So you have to understand how these laws work also, so that you can plan the time of the team accordingly when you're working with distributed teams across the board. Also, schedule face-to-face meetings periodically. The fact that you have distributed teams, you don't forget the element of actually being able to work together as a team physically. This does not mean that you have to plan it every other week or every week. It could be even once every 3 months, once every 6 months, once every year, up to you to decide, but deliberately prepare or plan time for a team to meet together physically and bond together. It could be, also inter-team physical meetings. It doesn't mean that all of the team will move over to another city to work together with another team. It could really be just specific team members going from one place to the other from time to time so that, teams can have that physical bonding. And you can change the location periodically. Sometimes, people are moving back and forth, maybe from US to Europe to Asia, or then Asians moving from, really it's important to have that meeting periodically, but also change the location so that, the same teams are not meeting the same teams every time. All right. And lastly, stay connected with the team. As a manager, this is specifically also for the managers, stay connected with the team. One of the dangers or the challenges of working in a distributed team or managing a distributed team is the ability to keep the teams aligned. And so these are some of the ways that you can do them. One is really have specific one-to-ones with the meeting with each member of the team to provide support, provide direction, and also maybe work on each individual OKR. You also organize specific team sessions to allow teams to share knowledge and best practices, check your goals, objectives that you're meeting them. And these team sessions, of course, will be virtual sessions, and they could be across continents. Organize product sessions, also specific product sections about discovery. Okay, where are we in terms of our discovery? What are we checking next? Where are we in terms of delivery? What do we have our deadlines? Are we all good? Where are we in terms of impact? Are we making impact? Are we actually meeting our expected results, expectations? And also have feedback sessions. This is really regardless of the framework or process that you're using. Make sure that you have a way of providing feedback, because the teams can tell you, oh, this is not working for me. I have this challenge, or maybe I've not been able to communicate with this other team or this other team member, and I would need that to be able to move forward. It is only during all of these sessions that you're able to understand if there are any challenges that need to be solved immediately. So stay connected with the team. It's very important, especially you as a manager, but also even as a team member. It's important for you to stay connected with the rest of your team members using these sessions. One other thing that I would highlight is the fact that when you're joining a distributed team, it's really, really important for you to try to meet each team member. I know sometimes it could mean a meeting 10, 20, 30 people, but you don't have to do all of that within one day or 1 week. You just take some time to get to know team members, take some time to get to know them and say, okay, look, I just joined the team. This is what I'm going to be doing on the team. What do you do on the team? What's been your background? Where were you before? And how can I help you to do your job better? And actually building these connections at the beginning will make it easier for you to work with such a person in the future. So this is very important. It's very important to stay connected when you are working in such a distributed teams. Okay, so I will conclude with the key takeaways. First thing, like I said, define the right structure in terms of the structure for the team and the process. Make sure you work with the team effectively by communicating properly. And of course, when you're managing the team, important thing I would say is stay connected to the team. All right. So that's what I have today for you. Thank you. I have, I don't know if we're able to run the poll. Anastasia,
yes, I'm here.
I would send it to you. I would like to ask if you would recommend this session to colleagues. It's important for me for feedback so that I can improve my next sessions. And yeah, I think we can go ahead with the questions.
Oh yes, it was wonderful. Thank you so much, Tolulope. It was so interesting. I personally work in the distributed team, and it is a big challenge. We are all scattered all over the world, and frankly saying, communication is not always as effective as I wished it was. Well, I have a question for you. How big is your team that you're working with right now?
Okay, it depends because I have a small team. I currently manage a team of 8, 9 because teams keep changing. And I have the bigger team, okay, that I have to work with. I have at least 200 people that I have to work with across the world. So yeah, and my team has to work with also.
Okay, so that's I don't know. Nowadays it's becoming a communication science. I think we should teach kids at school. Like how to manage a distributed team, because this is like our reality at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, guys. If you're ready for the questions, you can. I think you can write them personally to me in the chat, because we had a weird person there, so we switched off the comments. Or there is an easier way. You can switch on your camera and unmute and ask your questions personally to the speaker, to our presenter. Come on. This is all about networking, all about communication.
Hey, hello.
Hello, Pavel. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I was wondering, maybe you can provide a little bit more examples of doing one-on-one meetings, and maybe some other examples of building the communication culture, so people are more welcome to answer questions and so on and so forth. And when what kind of maybe events can I launch in my company? Maybe you have some examples.
Yeah, actually, it looks like a big challenge, but it's actually the simplest thing to do. Having a one-to-one conversation, when you have that conversation, is coming into the meeting or the conversation with, I need to know more about you. I need to understand, who you are, what you do, what are the cool things that you're currently working on. Can you tell me about it? And actually, it's easy because people like to talk about what they're working on, at least we assume. So it's easy for them to just say, oh, look at what I'm working on. And you ask them, so who are you working with? So you are actually able to connect the dots on the different networks within the organization. And so understanding that person, what they're doing, what they're working on, where they fit into the organization and how they're contributing to the success of the product, and to the company in general, would actually help you to understand how to interact with them also. And so this is more, when you approach it in that way of, I want to understand you better, then it's easy to have that kind of one-to-one conversation. And you need to have these, especially when you're just joining, or if you just join, whether as a team member or manager, you need to have such conversations. And also when you're having one-to-one, let's say as a manager, the idea is also, how can I support you? What are you doing? What are you currently working on? Tell me about it. What are the challenges you're facing? And you also have to provide direction, because, the fact that somebody's telling you, oh, look at the challenges I'm facing, look at what I'm trying to do. Maybe you have an insight that will make it everything, just go away, or make it even simpler, and so you can tell them, have you thought about this? How about that? And they're thinking, oh, yeah, that's actually good. Maybe I can do it this way. Or you ask them questions that will provoke their thought process, so that you can help tailor them in the right direction. So, those are, that's what you need to do in terms of one-to-ones. And also events that you can organize, things that you can organize to make sure that the communication is easier. You have to understand, I don't want to go into the sciences of, of communication and all of that, but you have to understand that each person that you're talking with has a network of people around them. And so sometimes they are just a link to the rest of the network. Okay. And getting to communicate effectively with such people, or with anyone on your team, is really getting to know that person on the team. Getting to talk with them on on a good, I would say, on a good level. And so getting such people will also open the door to talking to other people in the network, okay, in their own network. And so you begin to have different networks. And when you're managing a team, or you're maybe leading a team, you don't even necessarily have to be their manager. You can encourage people to take ownership of certain things. Let's say you want to do a sharing meeting for best practices or whatnot. You can ask somebody on your team, would you like to take that up to present something about what you're doing? And so it's actually a meeting for them. You're organizing the meeting, okay? But in the end, you're probably just doing the introduction and conclusion, because somebody else is going to be the one taking it up and sharing from the team. When the other team members see, oh, look, that was a great presentation, this person did it, next time they would want to do the same. And then it's actually the team members connecting with themselves. And after that, it's going to be easier when somebody sends you a chat and says, hey, I have a quick question for you. They will remember, oh, I saw this person presenting, oh, this person asked questions during my last presentation. And, it becomes very easy in terms of communication. So engaging the team themselves to participate in such meetings, to organize such meetings, to be active, actually, will make it easier in terms of communication.
Great examples. Thank you very much. That was what I asked. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, that was very valuable to hear, really. I mean, that would work. That would make the team more effective, indeed. Well, okay, anyone else is ready to come up on the stage? Thank you, Pavel Kozlov. During all my sessions, I think you were the only one who came up, live.
Yeah, and I have some people actually sending me some comments.
There is a question. There is a question here. What should I do if one of the team members is very closed and does not make contact? It's not like ready for the contact.
Does not make contact, but it depends, because we also need a context, because it could be for a number of reasons. I don't know. Are you there? Did you just get promoted as a manager, or are you part of their team, the skills team, or are you part of another skills team? Maybe a little bit more context on what's your relationship today with that team member.
Alexander, we need more context. What is the reason that the person doesn't want to contact? I mean, or is it like a you know, because I mean, people can be extroverts or introverts, right? So I mean, is that some personal feature of that member of the team?
Okay, but anyway, while we're waiting for more context from Alexandra, we could have this for a number of reasons. It could be, like you said, introverts, and extroverts. You could have maybe they just don't understand what your role is, or why you're asking them questions, or they could be also just a misunderstanding. But in any case, when you it's sometimes, again, sometimes the way we communicate could be a problem, because imagine you want something from somebody that you do not know, from Adam, and has never spoken with you, and you send them an email and copy the rest of the company and say, hey, Adam, can you do this for me? And you have like 500 people copied together, and they're looking at you like, I don't even know you. Who are you? Sometimes it's the way we also communicate. So maybe you want to, instead of, before doing such a thing, actually connect with them personally. Say, hey, I'm so person. I'm doing so thing on the team. Nice to meet you. I'm trying to do this particular thing. I talked to a lot of people. They said, you would be the best person to help me. So I'm really in need of your help. Could you help me do 1, 2, 3? And actually start that discussion personally before going about it in a big way. And the next time you're going to go about it in a big way, it's because you already had that discussion before. It's just, think about the fact that you're in a distributed team. It's like, you're in the same company. You can actually transpose it to being in the same company. You want something from someone. You've never talked to them personally. You've never, they don't even know you. And then you go to the front of, the office and just shout, hey, Adam, could you get me the documents? They're going to be like, who are you? So sometimes we have to adapt the way we talk and, the way we address people, depending on, our level of relationship with them. Also, and there's one important thing. There's some people that prefer some type of communication to others. You meet such a people because that's just the way they work. Some people prefer you to just chat with them. Some people prefer you sending them emails. Some people prefer to call. Try also to adapt your communication method with the person that you're talking with, so that it is. Some people prefer you to send them a document, okay, if that's what they can understand. But try to adapt, not necessarily forcing your way of communicating to on people, but try to adapt depending on the type of person that you have in front of you.
Yes, I think the manager, I mean, it's about flexibility. Like, there are different people and with different realities, and to connect all of them together, it takes a lot of, not effort, but like, you need to be really flexible about that.
Absolutely.
Yes, and Alexander said that he doesn't like to communicate. Well, I think Tolulope already answered that question, like the full range of different people, why, and the reasons why they don't want to communicate. And okay, I would like to ask you my last challenging question. It's a banner question, and I ask that each and every speaker. If there was a banner that each and every product manager could see, or a manager of the distributed teams could see, what would be written on that? What would you write on that?
I would say communicate, over communicate. I would totally put it here: communicate and over communicate, because that's very again, we've all talked, actually most of your questions are around communication, and it's very obvious that that's the major challenge you would have, as whether you're working with a distributor team or you're manager of one. It's important to communicate and over communicate, because just saying it once doesn't necessarily mean it's taken automatically. And it does not mean because they hate you, or they don't like you, or they don't want to listen to you. It's just because it's a human nature. We need to hear things multiple times in order for it to get into us and into our heads. That's why we have so many adverts YouTube adverts will come like every time you have the same thing, Facebook, on TV. That's because that's how we're tailored. We need to hear it over and over again. So communicate and over communicate. That's what I would put, on the banner.
So meaning that it can never be over. It's never enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. It was such a wonderful speech and amazing presentation.